Look at the greatest systems of moral thought, and it will easily be evident how dated they are, the extent to which they belong to a time and to an epoch. To grasp them once again requires an effort. Never do they speak directly and openly to us as they were able to speak to their contemporaries. Only by extracting certain happy expressions, a few rare pearls out of the whole superseded mixture, can we still follow Socrates or Confucius. But whenever we thus take apart, whenever we sort out a few strands from thread to which they properly belong because they especially appeal to us for their strength or brilliance, and which on that account we call eternal values, we are acting out of our own necessity and our own conditioning. An Indian thinker probably would not select the same pearls, and 200 years ago, or 200 years hence, a Western thinker might treat as negligible what we consider essential. Because 2,000 years ago, a wise man spoke a sentence which still speaks to us, we praise the permanence, the freedom, and the absolute quality of those values. But did that statement speak to medieval man, to a 15th century Inca? Our choice is just as arbitrary as theirs, not merely arbitrary in the sense of an uncontrolled freedom in the formulation of values, but arbitrary in declaring the eternity and fixity of a given value. There, too, our moral attitude and our moral choices are determined by circumstances. When we forget that fact, we easily mistake ourselves for gods, and right there is where sin resides. Moreover, necessity soon becomes apparent when it resides. Moreover, necessity soon becomes apparent when it resides. Moreover, necessity soon becomes apparent when it resides. Moreover, necessity soon becomes apparent whenever it is a matter of carrying out this proclaimed and formulated good for man. Confronted with the good which he ought to do, always, in reality, fulfills an order of necessity. When morality expresses that necessity directly, there is no disharmony, and man is obeying his own determinations, does good by that very action. Yo, you're agnostic.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
You're agnostic?
Yeah.
So, how come you're agnostic?
I just don't believe in any higher being.
You don't?
Nope.
What about I mean, don't you think like that the idea that we could exist without God, like isn't that like I think God's like necessary, right? And I guess you disagree.
I think God is a social construct,
A social construct.
as well as religion. I think it's something to keep you in your place, as well as I think as humans we see a lot of things and hear a lot of things that we can't understand or explain, so we try to come up with anything like you ever watch
Like saying God's a social construct?
Well, I mean, like, you ever watch paranormal videos or something like that? You know, like legends or people saying that they saw Bigfoot or something like that. You see something in the woods that you can't explain, your mind immediately goes to whatever magical crap that people come up with.
But those things really happen.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think
What?
I think I think that we just we can't comprehend the fact that some things are just not explainable.
In Gary, Indiana, there was a demonic possession that was witnessed by like three members of the hospital staff, like a psychiatric. What are they called? What's a psychiatric doctor called? I forget now. A psychiatrist or something like that. Yeah, a
Yeah,
psychiatrist.
psychologists, psychiatrists.
And there's a nurse and there's a CPS worker, and they witnessed this like little boy walk backwards up the wall and walk on top of the wall like there's no gravity. So like and they witnessed him being like picked up by nothing and thrown across the room. And there's like nothing touching him. Like he's picked up, levitating up in the air, and then thrown across the room.
Yeah, I'd absolutely have to see that to believe that. I'm not just gonna take someone's word at face value, especially only 4 people.
You think
And
you think the hospital staff would be lying?
I think it could be fabricated, most definitely, especially if it's 4 people that are saying it.
But why would the hospital staff lie? That doesn't make any sense. They're professionals.
Why does anybody lie?
Yeah, but this is you're just being unreasonable. So you're not very rational, and your position's not very rational, man.
No, they are. They're pretty rational.
No,
because I could say the same about your position. Why wouldn't they lie? You're asking me why would they lie? I'm asking you why wouldn't they? Give me a reason as to why they wouldn't.
Because there's a bunch of jerks like you who think they're so smart, and they want to like disbelieve anything that like supernatural thing just because of like you have this bias or like hatred for Christianity or something like that, right?
Not at all. I'm not coming in here with any hate, actually.
Everyone has a bias, so you're just a liar.
I don't have a bias. I was raised Catholic.
Liar.
I was a born again Christian, and then I lost religion. So I'm not a liar. You're just fucking wrong.
Do you think evidence can exist with independence from God?
Can what?
Can evidence exist with independence from God?
I don't understand the question.
I think God's necessary for evidence. That means if there's evidence in the world, that would be an indirect evidence of God, since there'd be a necessary relationship. Like, you couldn't have an apple without an apple tree. There's a necessary relationship. So if I had an apple and I've never observed an apple tree, that would be like an evidence of an apple tree, because you couldn't have the apple tree without the apple.
Okay, so where's the evidence of God?
Right. I'm saying there's a necessary relationship between an apple or God and like evidence itself. So you can't have evidence without God. But do you disagree with that?
I'm not sure what you're saying, because it don't really make sense.
It doesn't make sense, huh?
Nope.
So like if it's the case that like eggs are necessary for cake, would it make sense to like believe in cake and deny eggs?
Yet again, that doesn't prove any point. You're asking me if
You're just ignoring what I'm presenting to you.
no, you're just asking me if 2 things are necessary for each other, and you're not explaining as to what evidence there is of God. What evidence is there of God?
I'm trying to explain that. You're like ignoring what I'm presenting to you.
An apple tree, and apples, and eggs, and cake. What does that have to do with God? I get the metaphor you're
trying to explain the logic. The logic to my proof.
What proof, though? Where's the proof?
It's a transcendental proof.
Where's the proof for God? There's stories.
I'm trying to present it to you, and you're being really emotional. You're being really emotional and biased.
No.
And you're lying.
No.
So,
there's many stories of God that there's no proof of God.
Oh my God, dude! I'm trying to present it to you. So when you say there's no proof for God, that means you think proof exists that's independent of God?
You're just speaking in circles now, man.
I'm speaking very clearly and plainly. Do you think God is necessary?
You're speaking with no substance.
Do you believe God is necessary for proof?
That sentence is not coherent and it doesn't mean anything.
It's not coherent.
Nope.
So I don't even know how to phrase. I guess I can't have a conversation. I don't know. Like, well, thanks for coming. Oofta. Welcome. Do you accept God as your creator?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because it hasn't been demonstrated that that's how the world works.
Do you think a fact can be like demonstrated with independence from God?
Yes.
How did you determine that?
Because that God hasn't been determined to be necessary or demonstrated to be necessary.
Okay, would you say that it's fair that you're to say your position's not rational?
No.
Well, what's like the rationale that like we can?
The rationale is I don't believe in anything until sufficient proof has been provided.
Right, but you believe that proof exists with independence from God. I disagree. Right, we disagree on that.
So how do you demonstrate that?
Well, first, I'd like to point out your position is not rational because that's part of how I would demonstrate it. Because I don't think you can rationally deny God. So, like, you want to ask about evidence, but I don't think you could have evidence in a world where there was no God. I think God is a necessary requirement for there to be evidence at all.
Demonstrate that.
Because without God, there'd be nothing that would dictate possibilities and impossibilities. And
How do you know that?
Okay, so from my position, God is ultimate reality, so God would dictate possibilities in Christianity.
So question. I'm sorry for cutting you off there. So when you say God is ultimate reality, do you mean God is the physical reality in which we live in?
He's the most fundamental real thing.
No, that's not what I said. Is he the world that we live in?
No.
So that sentence you made doesn't make any sense.
Well, you must not know what ultimate reality means. So ultimate reality is like the most fundamental thing in existence that everything depends upon and is derived from, and it dictates possibilities and necessities. So it determines what's possible and what's necessary.
So how do you demonstrate that derivative force?
The transcendental argument.
Run it.
This is what I'm doing right now, right? So I'm putting my cards on the table. I'm putting my position, my bias. I'm saying, look, I'm a Christian. I believe the Christian God's ultimate reality. And I'm saying that if you deny that, then you'll have no ultimate reality to speak of. And without an ultimate reality to speak of, you couldn't have evidence in that system.
So your argument is pretty much, if I presuppose that I'm right, then I'm right, and you're wrong.
My argument is that if you reject the claims of the Bible, you will be in this dilemma of ultimate mystery, and that it'll collapse your whole system at a foundational level where it will make like science and philosophy impossible. It'll make arguments impossible. So due to the impossibility of the contrary, Christianity is true, or you have to be a radical skeptic.
So look, does something not making any sort of sense whatsoever make it untrue?
Does something not making sense make it untrue? No.
So how did you demonstrate that just because there not being a God not making any sense makes it untrue.
So we're having an argument right now, right?
Right.
And then I'm going to go, well, what's necessary for us to have this argument? Well, we're going to have to know ultimate reality to have this argument, right?
I don't know what
But
ultimate reality is.
your position is that ultimate reality is unknown. And so if that were the case, we couldn't even have this argument. So the fact that we're having this argument would be a demonstration that your position is incorrect and my position is correct.
That's not true at all.
Well, how could we have an argument if there's an unknown ultimate reality? Everything would be possible. Anything would be possible in that system.
So look. So what you're saying essentially is us not knowing where reality comes from prevents us from knowing how it works.
Well, a fact is like something about reality that would make like a sentence true, right?
A fact is something about reality, or a statement about reality that would make it true.
So we have a sentence, the cat is on the mat, right?
So define truth. Define truth.
We have a sentence. The sentence is the cat is on the mat, right? That's a sentence, okay? And then there's something in reality where like in an actual external physical world, there's a cat and there's a mat and the cat's on the mat, right? So that fact in the actual world makes the sentence true, right?
Sure.
Okay, so the fact is the actual thing that makes the sentence true. So if you don't know what ultimate reality is, then there's no reality to speak of, because you wouldn't know if the actual world was like physical or mental, or if it existed or anything.
What reason do I have to assume that it's mental?
Well, you would have no idea. All you would have is a perception of an external world, but you would never have access to know the actual world. And if you don't know the actual world, then there's no way to say that there's like this fact that corresponds to your sentence.
I disagree. I disagree. You
can't disagree.
I just did.
You can't.
I just did. So you're
just contradicting me. You're just BSing.
No. Look,
you don't know what you're talking about.
Let me know. Let me
go
know when
ahead.
you're ready for me to talk.
Go ahead. Lie.
So what you're essentially trying to do is run the brain in the vat, what's it called? Hard solipsism trap, right? And essentially the thing is, I have no reason to assume that I'm a brain in a vat right now. So I don't.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Sure.
So you can't defeat skepticism. Your system can't withstand skepticism. So you have to choose now, right? You have to be a radical skeptic where you don't know anything, a hard solipsist, determinist, nihilistic, nominalist, or you have to be a Christian. Really? So you choose to be irrational.
So hold on. What you're saying is I have to either question everything or I have to accept a God. And not just any God, your God.
Yes.
So how did we get from reality doesn't exist to God exists?
If you deny the claims of the Bible, you will be reduced to radical skepticism. You won't be able to know anything.
No, that's not. Look.
We just demonstrated it.
No, you didn't. You didn't demonstrate that.
Well, you're just ignoring what I'm presenting now. So, like, I don't know. Like,
no, I am countering it because it's
You're not. You have to give me an ultimate reality to counter it. You can't. You can't counter the argument.
No, I don't. I just have to tell you that your argument doesn't work.
That's just all you're doing is contradicting what I'm saying. You're not offering anything of substance. Okay, well, do you mind if I move on to someone else? Because this is not productive if you're just going to contradict.
Because you don't know how to run an argument when it goes off script.
All you're doing, what do you mean goes off script? You're just contradicting me. You're not offering a rebuttal.
I don't need to offer a rebuttal.
Yes, you do. I'm offering a challenge.
My argument is I don't know. Your argument is God. I am telling you
I don't know. That's a fail.
No, it's not.
Yes,
I don't know is the most honest answer that is available on the market
I
right now.
don't know destroys the possibility to have this argument.
No, it
So if you
doesn't.
take that position, you can't
No,
argue.
it doesn't. I don't know is not a positive claim.
Do you not? If you say I don't know ultimate reality, now anything is possible. Do you not understand?
Look. So
You're just denying the entailments of your
Do I need
absurd
to
position.
understand how a car
Sir,
works
you're
to
being
be able to drive a
emotional.
car?
You're being emotional, dude. This is
Yeah,
not a
because
rational position. It's
you're a
completely
frustrating
absurd.
individual to talk to.
Sir, you're saying that you're telling me that anything is possible, yet we can have an argument. This is completely absurd and irrational.
Anything is possible, therefore an argument isn't possible.
Exactly. If anything is
How?
possible, then
How did you get there?
it's possible that we're both correct. There's
Your
no
brain dead.
truth.
Your brain
There's no
dead, Bob.
truth. There's no truth in your system. It makes no sense to be able to have an argument and come to a true conclusion. It doesn't make sense at all. Okay, he left. I didn't kick him. Where do they grow these people? Welcome.
How's it going, man? So it's okay to say I don't know, because you don't necessarily need to know ultimate reality if it's just unknown. You can still operate in the world perfectly fine.
You're at a crossroads. You're going to be a radical skeptic or a Christian. What are you going to choose?
It's not being a radical skeptic to say I don't know. It's saying, it's literally admitting the truth. That I don't know. Nobody knows.
So you're like what? Like an ignorance evangelist? You're like promoting?
No, I'm an intellectual.
I think we should know things. I'm a Christian.
I'm an intellectually honest person.
No, you're promoting ignorance. You're saying nobody knows anything.
I'm not saying don't try to learn it.
Sophist.
I'm not saying don't try to learn it. I'm saying we don't know it right now.
If ultimate reality is unknown, then we can't have an argument. Do you not get this?
No, you can have an argument. You can have an argument whether your position has evidence.
Okay, so we disagree over what's possible and impossible. I think it's possible that Jesus resurrected, God resurrected him, right? Do you think that's possible?
I think it's possible.
Really, what would dictate what's possible and impossible for you to say that it's possible?
I mean, I think it's possible just because, if God is real, then it's possible. I think it's possible God is real. I just don't see any evidence for it.
Since God is necessary, right? So when you say I don't see any evidence for it, you're making the claim that evidence can exist independent of God. And I say God is necessary for evidence, and I presented the case for that. Could you present a case for me that evidence can exist with independence from God?
Yes, because we have done repeated measurements over and over of different things, and these kinds of evidences have worked plenty of time to figure out knowledge using the scientific method. So I think the scientific method has kind of proven itself.
The scientific method has not proven itself. Unfortunately, the scientific method cannot verify its own foundations.
You're right. But clearly there's something there based on just the utility of it.
This is what I'm presenting to you. If atheism were the case, science is impossible, and only if Christian revelation is true can science be possible. So to deny Christian revelation is to deny science itself. Are you prepared to do that?
No.
Okay. So then you're going to have to tell me, how are you going to account for science in your worldview? You won't be able to.
No, actually I can. It's called empirical evidence. It's called observation.
It's called the problem of induction. Bertrand Russell said science is impossible unless you answer the problem of induction. And Christian revelation provides an answer for the problem of induction, making science possible.
Can you provide a brief overview? Can you provide a brief overview of this problem?
The problem is that science is based on the principle of induction, which needs this proposition has to be true for induction to be true, is that the future resembles the past, and this proposition cannot be verified rationally or empirically, and therefore you cannot justify the proposition, and that means science is impossible. However, with a revelatory epistemology, or with God's revelation, God would provide a justification that the future resembles the past, because it says so in the Bible. Therefore, if we take the Bible as an authority, foundation for our system, our model of reality, science becomes possible, philosophy becomes possible, and we can argue. And if you deny that, we won't even be able to have this conversation.
Well, I think the answer to that would be that you can go and look and measure stuff that's happened in the past. There's stuff that the past has left behind that you can study from.
That's begging the question. So people have thought of that, right?
Begging the question.
You don't think no one in the history of time has ever thought of that? Like, you think you're a genius and you've solved the problem of induction that no one's been able to solve?
No, I think that people solved it before. I'm just reciting the answer.
No one has solved it. You don't know what you're talking about, and you're lying to me. So I don't know.
Well, no one solved it? No one solved it? I mean, if we're talking about future events, yeah, I mean, maybe something like, I'm talking about the past specifically.
I'm going to clip this because you think you've solved the problem of induction, and that's hilarious.
I didn't think I solved it. Pretty sure someone else did it before me.
So you don't know, you have no idea what you're talking about, but you're sure that the problem of induction's been solved.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking that if you're posing it, then it's probably been solved, because all the stuff you're talking about is pretty ridiculous.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
thank you for the
that's
clip.
basic. That's basic. Yeah. Take
Okay.
that clip.
All right. I wish you well.
Wait. Come on, man. Come on. Wait. Let me.
What?
I got other thing to talk about.
I don't know, like, you kind of just owned yourself. I mean, like, what else is there to talk about?
I did not own myself. You
Yes,
you haven't offered a refutation.
I'm literally clipping. What you said is so ridiculous. I'm going to clip.
Are you
it.
going to offer a refutation, or are you just going
mean,
to say it? Are you just
there's
going to
no
say it doesn't
need.
work? Are you just going to say
you
it doesn't
owned
work?
yourself, dude?
Are you going to say it doesn't work and not
Oh my
offer a
God,
refutation, or are you going to offer a refutation?
For why we can't justify induction is because it's not logically necessary that the future resembles the past, and if you try to justify it empirically, that's begging the question. So
No,
this-
it's not. It's not, because
It
I'm
is.
talking about studying the past. Yeah,
I understand what you're talking about. It's
Yeah,
begging
and the
the
past.
question.
You agree the past left behind evidence of itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we study the evidence that it left behind, then you can gain knowledge from it. Is that right?
Well, do you think there's true facts about the past?
I mean, depends what you mean by true, but yes.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
if you're talking colloquially, yes.
Yeah, so where does the past exist?
I think the past is gone.
It doesn't exist.
I mean, I think that it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, so when we say something's true of the past, it corresponds to something that doesn't exist?
Well, I mean, there's facts. The past did exist at one point. I mean, is that
You own
just-
yourself again. You just want to keep owning yourself.
How is it improper to
Because your
say the
system is
past
so,
doesn't
your
exist
system
anymore?
is your system's so ridiculous. It can't even explain the past, like facts of the past.
Huh? Are you dumb?
No,
Bro,
you
it's
just
not-
said the.
Where is the
No, dude.
contradiction? Where is the
You
contradiction?
just contradicted yourself.
Where is the contradiction in saying the past doesn't exist anymore, but it did exist at one point? Where is the
Well,
contradiction there?
The contradiction is, like, to say something's true of the past, there would have to be this past for that, like, truth to correspond to. But then you want to deny the existence of the past because you hate God and stuff.
I'm not
And so-
I'm not denying the existence of the past before. So I mean, just because something doesn't exist anymore doesn't mean you can't study
In Christianity, the past has an existence in the mind of God.
Dinosaurs don't exist anymore,
So-
but they left behind some evidence of themselves.
As a Christian, we can say that there's these true facts of the past, and those sentences correspond to something that's in reality. But when you talk about facts of the past, there's no past to correspond to, because your system can't make sense of anything. You can't make sentences, but yet you're sitting here talking to me, so you must believe in the Christian system.
No, I definitely don't.
But
And you haven't
this is-
offered a proper reputation to the fact that the past can have existed before.
I don't have to. You're refuting yourself.
It's not refuting itself.
The ridiculous things you're saying, you're just owning yourself, dude.
You can make a claim about what happened in the past without the past still having to exist. Do you understand that?
I mean, I think we should just move on, and I don't know.
I mean, you're not really giving an answer to that. You're just stating, you're just using like buzz phrases.
I'm using buzz phrases.
Yeah, I mean that's literally all you're doing.
Hey,
Like,
host.
what's up, Internet
Lefty?
Slaw?
Hey, yeah. So, host, you're basically just making the basis precept argument and using transcendental arguments for God. So, since we're using an argument whose basis has been established for not just the last 100 years, but for literally hundreds of years, and this isn't a new problem, we have standard ways to just go ahead and deal with this. So
problem of
tag
induction.
is literally only usable to win an
on.
argument, and we cannot use it for anything else. So let's go ahead and
It is an argument. What else would you use an argument for?
yeah.
talking
So
about?
the same logic path that you're using with the propositions, it's literal only use. It has its own standard location within just assertion logic, because it is the only place you can use it.
What the hell are you talking about?
The foundations of transcendental arguments for God, dude. The same argument you're making.
What?
Yeah, do you know the arguments you're making? Do you know like who made them, where they come from, what they are?
Well, the first transcendental argument was what Aristotle made, and I think the book Metaphysics, and then Kant made transcendental arguments famous, and Cornelius Van Til made the argument that I'm making. Yeah.
Yeah, there's three other guys who are pretty important as well, and we don't really consider them. One is less considered than there's two more that you can go and look into. So I'll let you do that on your own time, but there's a reason that this isn't classically considered outside of like a TikTok debate. So the argument that you're making is literally a circle.
No.
Yes, it is. No. By definition, like if you literally go and look up the argument, it is a circle.
I understand the argument better than you, trust me.
I guarantee you don't.
Okay, well, show me. What are you talking about?
The
What's
fact that you say
circularity?
it's not a circle shows me that you don't actually know.
If facts, then God. Facts, therefore God. Where's the circularity?
Yeah, you're using facts to assert God, then you're using God to assert facts, and then you say, well, since they're true, I win.
So the circularity would be like if the conclusion's in the premise, right?
The circularity is in the fact that you aren't even having to prove anything. You're just saying this is the cause, and then this cause is seen by the justification of...
You want to just admit you don't know what you're talking about?
Man, I noticed you just did this with Lefty when he called you out.
Yeah, dude, I would love for you to call me out. I'm trying to understand, because like I don't think circularity is when the conclusion is in the premise, right? Is that what we're talking about?
I'm talking about you are literally going in a circle. Like, do you follow that when you stated when you restated it toward me,
This isn't an answer
you
to my
just walked
question.
yourself in a circle?
This isn't an answer to my question. Are
Yes,
we on board?
the conclusion is literally in the premise.
Okay, so if facts, then God. We have facts, therefore God. How's the conclusion in the premise?
Because you're assuming that we have knowledge, and you're assuming that one is true. You have assumed one is true.
Wait, are you denying
therefore
knowledge?
The other is true.
Are you denying knowledge?
Absolute knowledge, yes.
Dude, that's a contradiction.
No, it isn't.
Oh my god. Okay, now you're...
Show the contradiction.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, he's running. He's running.
Running.
He's running. He won't actually
Well,
answer.
The contradiction
This is what happens when someone who actually knows what they're talking about talks to you. You
When
gotta
you
run away.
When you say there's no absolute knowledge, that's an absolute knowledge claim. So you're just gibberating. You're contradicting.
I'm
yourself.
saying we have no evidence of absolute knowledge. I'm saying I do not have absolute knowledge.
Claim.
No, I'm saying I do not have absolute knowledge.
Thanks for coming.
He's running away.
Yeah. Let me sit here and contradict myself. Oh, I can't contradict myself. You're running away. Where do they grow these people?
Hey, how's it going?
Just getting people lying to me, and these atheists are so emotional. I think I should make emotional arguments because they don't like this logical argument that I'm presenting. What do you think?
So I heard you give your modus ponens, if facts, then God, facts, therefore God, right?
Uh-huh.
So what's the justification for premise one?
In the history of epistemology, do you know what epistemology is? It's like the theory. Yeah, so there's two schools of thought. Like you have rationalism, you have empiricism, then you have like permutations that like try to like a hybrid of both of them. And like none of them work. So basically only revelatory epistemology is like the only coherent theory of knowledge that can be. You couldn't have a coherent theory of knowledge otherwise. And so therefore, like due to the impossibility of the contrary, right?
Well, an impossibility of the because when you say if facts, then God is a necessary precondition for facts, right?
Yes.
So when you say the impossibility of the contrary, that's just restating the premise with negative wording.
I just gave you the justification. I said, look, if we look at the history of secular epistemology, it's a failure, right? It's a big fail. There's no coherent theory of knowledge. Only through revelatory epistemology can we have a coherent epistemology. So revelation is required for epistemology. There you go.
Like that's the claim. That's premise
Dude,
one.
Are you dense? Like what the hell?
So
That is the reason. That's why it's impossibility of the contrary. That's the defense of premise one. I just gave it to you.
Premise one is the impossibility of the contrary.
What is wrong with you? The whole history of secular epistemology is a fail, right?
Sure, we could take that as true.
Only revelatory theism is the only coherent theory of knowledge there. And if that's the case, then God's necessary for facts. It's simple, dude.
So is it necessarily the case that all secular theories of knowledge have been a failure so far? It is necessarily true that a theistic epistemology must be correct?
Yes, because there's an unsolvable problem in secular epistemology.
What's that?
The problem of you need to have your criteria of justification prior to selecting your criteria of justification so you can use it to select the correct criteria of justification. So the only way to have the correct criteria of justification is if it's like an absolute personal creator God that reveals itself to you.
Why is that?
Because you understand there's multiple criterias of justification, right?
Yep.
And how are we going to know what's the correct one? Because we'd have to have a criteria to select the correct criteria. So that's an unsolvable problem in secular epistemology. But only solved through the criteria of justification being a personal creator God that reveals itself. So the criteria reveals itself to us, and that's how we know we have the correct criteria as Christians. You would have no way to know your criteria of justification is valid. You just have to speculate and guess.
Wouldn't it be the case that even under your worldview, you would have to assume God always tells you the truth?
Of course. That's what, well, we don't assume that because it's revealed, right? So God tells us that he's truth revealing. And if you deny that, you'll be reduced to absurdity. So it must be the case due to the impossibility of the contrary.
Right, but saying God is necessarily always truth revealing because the contrary is impossible is just a restatement of the argument.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Wish you well. And once again, they just ignore what I present to them. Every time. Welcome.
Hey, how we doing?
Doing great. Bunch of emotional people.
I don't think they're emotional. I just think they have their own premise on it.
Well, why would they reject the objective proof of Christianity?
Because they have
It's
their
emotional.
own ideas.
Because of their emotions. They have no rationale to reject what I'm presenting to them. They're just being emotional.
So let's look at that for a second. Okay. So I'm going to give you a series of yes or no questions. Number one, you believe that there are only two choices: to be all unknowing, have no idea what anything is going on, or believe in the Christian God. Is that correct?
Yes.
So,
Well, hold on.
There's okay. So
Hold on. There's an
understand
important
the
distinction to make here.
Hold
There's
on.
an important. Hold on. Stop. There's an important distinction. A lot of people make a mistake. So, I would go to an atheist doctor, right? I don't think you have to believe in Christianity to know things, right? I'm saying that if atheism were true, right? If atheism were true, no one would know anything and we couldn't have this conversation. And only if Christianity is true can we have this conversation. Since we're having this conversation, therefore Christianity must be true. So the fact that I think you can know things, and that because of that fact, that's why Christianity is true. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So already right there, that's absolute thinking. You think that because we're having this conversation, there's an absolute to say that God exists. That's
Correct.
not the case. I'm an atheist. I do know a lot of things. And because I'm an atheist, there's a possibility that atheism is correct.
If atheism were true, atheism would be false. So atheism is a contradiction.
How is atheism a contradiction?
Atheism-
Non-belief in a God, how is that a contradiction to knowledge? Because knowledge and religion, knowledge and a belief are very separate things.
Since atheism can't account for the necessary preconditions of intelligibility, it's going to be assuming the preconditions of intelligibility when you talk to me, but then you deny the preconditions when you deny the Bible's true, right? Or you don't accept the Bible's necessary.
And all concepts of knowledge have to come from a Bible, right? Is that what you're saying?
The Bible is a necessary foundation for any knowledge, and
No,
it's
it's not.
undeniable.
No, it's not, because we have
Okay, Cyril.
a lot of religious texts from beliefs way even before Christianity, and a lot of those documents and items that we have are a basis of a lot of knowledge that we have in current day. So the Bible is not necessary. The Bible
Yes,
has
it
never
is.
been necessary.
It is
It's not
necessary.
because we existed without it for thousands upon thousands of years before Christianity was even a concept.
Yeah, but the claims of the Bible were true before the Bible existed. So that's all that matters.
And the claims of Darwin have been proven to be true as well.
That's not the case because science offers provisional truth. So
Yeah.
science doesn't really like prove anything because science is like always wrong about stuff.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
how is science always wrong about things?
Well, they're always like updating and revising based on new
because it is a
information. So
scientific method to realize that it's more than what we have realized before. Because
Yeah, but-
technology advances, because science advances,
Yeah,
because
but
we
you're
as
not
our human
understanding.
selves have a
You don't get it.
consciousness idea.
this
to
is a fail.
build
This is a
and
total fail.
how's
So the
it a
science.
total fail? So
The scientific method doesn't tell you how to interpret the data that the scientific method produces. So you'd still need like background beliefs that are unjustified when you're interpreting data. So this is just getting you nowhere, right? Not only that, scientific method doesn't tell you that you ought to believe the data that it produces. So science is this is a total failure
yeah, because there's always room for improvement.
because it's a failure.
So,
So because of this
All right,
failure,
you are a
right? This is
person of
why you
black and
need
white
this is
thinking.
why you need the Bible.
You are a person of black and white thinking. One thing
No.
is one way or one thing is the other way. Yes, that is exactly how your mind works.
It's not.
Just because this system continues to update because we get more technology and because we get more knowledge of the certain topic, then it's automatically a failure. That is what
I
you
explained why you're
and
being
that is an
emotional.
absolute thinking. That is a black and white thinking.
You're an emotional thinker. You're ignoring the logic. You're completely ignoring what I'm presenting to you, and you're just saying emotional things to me. You're not saying anything. You're not being rational, sir. This is why you need God. Atheism is an emotional, irrational position.
You yourself are being emotional in saying
I'm
that
not,
the only
sir.
correct idea is Christianity. And any
not emotional.
contracting belief that I have said, and any contracting belief and knowledge that I have given you, you are immediately shutting down. That is emotional thinking.
No, here's what I'm presenting.
emotional thinking.
No, sir, I'm presenting
How is
my
it not emotional thinking?
sir, because look, I'm presenting my case. I say ultimate reality is the Christian God. What do you say ultimate reality is?
The ultimate reality is that we have no idea. You can have your experiences. You can have your experiences, and I can have mine. Guess
So-
what? Any person in here who is an
Being
atheist,
emotional.
any person in here who is an atheist, the reality is you are not going to convince them that God exists.
Okay.
And
Because they're
I'm not going to
emotional.
convince you that God
Because
doesn't exist.
it's because you're not being
your
logical.
Mindset. I'm saying that there is a possibility.
If you are open to
Absolutely,
being
there's a
rational,
possibility of
I can
God.
convince you. You have to be open to being rational, though. You're not open to being
then
rational.
are you open to the idea that God may not exist?
No, because let's
then there
examine
we go.
if that's the case,
There
right?
we go.
Let's do a
Then
thought
you
experiment.
Do not believe, then you have a black and white thinking. And
No,
you are
let's-
emotionally
no, I
thinking
can
that God
demonstrate
is
it.
The only answer.
You're being emotional. I can demonstrate
How am I
it.
being
So
emotional?
because I
I'm
can
giving you
demonstrate this. I'm
absolute-
trying. You're talking. I'm trying to explain this to you. So we can do a thought experiment. We'll say what would be the case if God did not exist.
Okay.
What follows from that is what you said, that we wouldn't know ultimate reality. Okay, and ultimate reality is that thing in the system that determines possibilities. So now you have a system where there's no reason to think anything's possible or impossible. So anything is possible and anything goes. And in that type of system, we can't have facts, we can't have evidence, we can't have arguments, we can't even speak sentences. And anything's possible. Like, that system doesn't work. We need some God to explain the order and the coherence, the rationality that we're experiencing right now. So you
And
can't
you
deny
believe
it.
that the Christian God is the only answer to that. The Christian God.
Yes, because it's going to have to
Not
only.
the Muslim gods, not the Buddhist gods, not the Hindu gods that have
Correct.
been around for thousands upon thousands of years before that Christianity has ever even been a concept. So the only answer that you're answering is Christianity. That's the only answer.
Correct.
Okay, great. So again, I go back on my statement and say that is an emotional thought. That is a very emotional thought, and saying that is the only answer, is the only possible answer, and you me speaking as you, I am not going to accept any other answer than saying that God exists. And saying that God, I'm not going to accept anything else except the saying God, the Christian God exists. That is
Because
emotional thinking.
no, it's not, because I don't
At least
believe.
me, as an agnostic person,
Oh my
is
gosh.
opening up to the possibility. Yes, the possibility that God does exist is very much a thing.
How
Guess
can you
what?
talk
So
about
is
what would
many
make
other.
you're
Alrighty,
dude? Stop! You just said it there with the possibility. You
there's a
think
possibility. There's
you're
not a
talking?
definitive. There's a
Stop! You're
possibility.
talking. You're
There is not a
talking.
definitive.
You're talking about possibilities and impossibilities, but you're denying the thing. You're saying the system, the thing in my system which makes things possible is unknown, and then you want to talk about what's possible at the same time. Do you see the contradiction?
No, I don't.
Well, thank you for coming. I wish you well.
All right, you take care. Hope you open up your.
Holy crap, man. I'm getting cooked. Like, dude, you know how many clips I got from this stream? Like, holy crap. I'm going to just be clipping shit all day tomorrow.
Hello there.
Welcome, Dan.
Give me just a moment here. I just got in my vehicle. I gotta turn down some stuff here so I can hear you better. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. So, I've been listening to this argument, going back and forth for. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So before we go into the whole presuppositional stuff here, so are you aware of the Sumerians?
I mean, vaguely. I mean, I know it's like the oldest civilization. Epic of Gilgamesh and stuff. Hello? Hello? I don't know if that guy... He's not there. Slade, I'm looking for atheists. You're a theist. I need Halloween. What's
Hello?
up, CLB? Yo, what's up?
What's good? I really don't even have much to say, but keep doing what you're doing, man. God is great. You have a good night, and God bless.
Thank you. I appreciate you, bro. Right back at you. What a nice young man. What a nice Christian man. I think he was Christian. I guess he could have been Muslim. I shouldn't, I guess, assume. But,
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well. Oh, yeah, he's Christian. Right on.
Hey, so I'm an agnostic, and as a result of that, I don't necessarily believe that the Abrahamic concept of God is real.
Right. And have you been listening long?
To be honest, no. This just popped up on my feed.
Well, so I don't know. I've been offering logical proof to non-believers all night, and they keep getting emotional and like refusing to listen to what I present to them. So I'm wondering maybe like emotional arguments might be better, because it seems like it's not really rational to deny God. Seems like an emotional position. I don't know.
Well, I'm not looking to make an emotional argument here. I guess the reason why I joined is, have you ever heard of Russell's Teapot?
Yes.
Okay, so With that little thought experiment in mind, do you believe that it is possible to prove or disprove the existence of God?
Yeah, I think Christianity is objectively provable.
Okay, so how would you go about proving that?
So I make a transcendental argument or transcendental proof for God. Are you probably not familiar with? Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
It's the idea. It's about like we all have like bias or like beliefs we have at a foundational level, and it's sort of like let's examine our bias. And we do like a thought experiment, like what would the world be like if there was no God? Does that world like does the non-God world, is that what we experience? Is that consistent with how we live? I don't know. I'm going to say I can demonstrate that it's not, right? It doesn't make sense. And that the type of world that's described in the Bible is the only world that's going to like really make sense of reality, make truth possible, stuff like that. So to deny the claims of the Bible would be like an absurdity where it's like denying evidence itself or something like that. Since I would say that yeah, go ahead.
So that argument kind of presupposes that Christianity is the true religion, doesn't it?
No, it's about examining how we look at the world, because how we look at the world affects how we interpret evidence, right?
Sure.
So if we have a fundamental disagreement in how to interpret evidence, then like presenting evidences to each other is going to be like talking past each other, because we disagree. Like I think it's possible that like God resurrected Jesus. Right, I think that's possible. Like, I would assume you like don't think that's possible.
I'm sorry, there's a little bit of interference. Can you repeat the question?
Like, I think supernatural claims are possible. For example, like the miracle claims in the Bible, I think are possible, and I'm assuming that you would think those claims are like impossible.
So I don't necessarily think that they're impossible. You know, when it comes to, for example, the claims that Jesus healed people, those are claims that have been repeated in other historical sources. And so I believe that it is possible that, number one, backing up a little bit here, obviously there was a person named Jesus who existed around the 1st century AD. There is just way too much historical evidence to believe otherwise.
Right.
Number two, there are some other accounts from the time of him performing miracles, and through that lens, kind of angering the Roman source of power at the time. So I believe that it is possible that a person could have performed those miracles.
Really?
So it just...
Well, then why don't you believe in Christianity?
Because I haven't seen any direct evidence of the existence of God. There have been other accounts of people performing healing miracles throughout history.
Yeah.
So if the only proof is that there are other historical sources of a person performing miracles.
Well, it's not just that like Jesus performed miracles, like he claimed he was the Son of God, and like all the identity claims he made. And then those would be verified by the fact that there was witnesses, there's a historical account, like witnesses to his resurrection. So I mean, like,
so I'm only familiar with the biblical account of his resurrection. Are there other historical accounts that talk about it?
I don't really get into evidential arguments, so I couldn't really answer that. But like there is a historical account that there's witnesses to the resurrection, whether it's in the Bible or other sources. I think it's just the Bible, but even if that's the only source, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, it does matter if we're talking about trying for proof, because
See, exactly. See, this is where we disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you're gonna say like what, like because there's no other outside source to verify the claim in the Bible, that you're gonna be skeptical of the claim in the Bible?
I am, and the reason why is because the Bible is a book just like any other. It is a book that was written by human people with human motivations. For example, the King James Version was written with a specific motivation and took some liberties in translating certain parts of the Bible. There are other translations of the Bible that have taken their own liberties in translating it. So by saying that, if you're saying that the account of Jesus as told in the Bible is proof that Christianity is real, it kind of requires that you consider the Bible to be a reliable historical source. And
yeah, there's a lot of mistakes you made there. The translations are all like consistent, so that's not an issue. And you said like the Bible's just like any other book, but it's not just like any other book. The Bible's like our self-authenticating authority in our system, right? Because we say that like God is the authority, the ultimate authority of truth, and then the Bible represents his word. So it's not just like any other book. It's a special book.
it's special if you believe that it is special. It's special if you give it.
Right.
It's special if you give it special meaning, which, again, I do not.
Right, but that's going to entail a contradiction.
How so?
Because the only way we could like have that book, the claims in that book are like necessary for evidence. So if you reject the book, it's like rejecting evidence itself.
Well, no, it's not,
Yes.
because I would accept the claims in the book if there were other sources that...
No, you're saying that evidence can exist without, like, if we didn't have the claims of the Bible, we could still have evidence, right?
Evidence of what? Evidence of Christianity?
Anything. Like foundational. I'm talking foundationally. Because I think the Bible, the claims of the Bible, are a necessary foundation to have any like system to have evidence in the first place. So the Bible's necessary for evidence. So to deny the Bible is to deny evidence itself, like all evidence.
Well, no, there are some things that can be proven with evidence independent of the Bible.
Yes, I disagree.
Okay, why?
I don't because if we look at how people try to prove things are true without using the Bible, it always ends in failure. Like, because ultimately, it's going to be like a human mind that determines truth, and so that means humans just invent truth from our minds. So truth is like basically a fantasy.
Well, no, proof is derived from our observations of the physical world around us.
Incorrect. Ultimately, it's either the mind of God or the mind of man that will first rationalize the facts. And if you say it's the mind of man, then everything becomes arbitrary and like subjective. So you couldn't know anything in that system. It doesn't work.
Okay, so let's take for example Let's take, for example, something that is really easy to prove, like the chemical formula for glucose, for example. It is C6H12O6, if you remember from high school chemistry.
Sure.
So why is the Bible necessary to prove that that is the chemical formula for glucose?
So in my system, ultimate reality is God. And ultimate reality is going to dictate possibilities and impossibilities. Okay. So in your system, if there's no God, then you wouldn't know what ultimate reality is. Or if you deny the Christian God specifically, you wouldn't know what ultimate reality is, right? And so if you don't know what dictates possibilities, when you speak of what is this, like sugar, let's just use I don't even know what you said. I can't remember. Let's say H2O.
Glucose.
H2O.
Sugar is a type of glucose.
Well, no, let's just say H2O. It's like the same shit, right? H2O.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you wouldn't be able to like speak about if there's nothing that's dictating in your system possibilities. When you talk about H2O, well, what would limit water that its property is like H2O? Because if there's nothing that limits the water to being H2O, then it could be like H3O or HO2, or like there needs to be a limit on the properties of the thing, states of existence.
There does not.
Well, then there'd be no limit on its states of existence. And if there's no limit on its states...
We have a specific definition for what water is. Water is two hydrogen atoms covalently bonded to one oxygen atom. Anything that is not that is not water.
Something has to limit its states of existence, or so it's H2O and it's not HO2, right? Or whatever. It could be anything. If there's no limit on the state of existence.
The thing that limits its state of existence, as you call it, is the definition water.
No, it's God.
Water is defined in one specific way.
Okay.
And so to say that HO2 could also be called water is just factually incorrect. We can't call it water
because of Christianity.
It doesn't. No, because it doesn't match the definition of water.
Okay, but remember, the Christian God limits water so that it's H2O, right? So if there's nothing limiting it to be H2O, what's to stop it from changing?
Again, the definition water is what limits it. There's no outside factor that needs
a definition doesn't limit something. Like the definition of gravity, if we can change definitions. Like if we change the definition of water, is that going to change what water is?
Who is we in this context?
Humans invent definitions, Mr. Like humans invent the Bible. Humans invent definitions. So if I just change the definition of water, will that change what water is in the actual external world?
To you as an individual, maybe.
All right, thanks for coming.
Definition of a word.
That's another clip.
A definition.
That's another clip. Holy crap, dude. Where do they grow these people? Oh, what's up? Did you have another quick comment?
I have really like, it's really just a question for like my general knowledge.
Sure.
So like, I'm gonna ask the comments first, and then I'm gonna ask you, because then it'll give me my answer. So really, I'm really talking to the slave dude in the comments, because like, he kind of been overly blowing it for a little minute. It's kind of getting to me. So if God or like no other being exists, can someone please explain to me how like the earth is so fine-tuned to where humans and all these other species can exist? Like our gravity is tuned to where we won't get sucked to the center or float away. We're the only planet that really can breathe on. We have water, we have trees, nature, we have everything to stay alive. No other planet has that, and there's no other life on those other planets. So, like...
They're just going to say it's an illusion of design. That's what they... I don't know. I mean...
The Big Bang Theory, do y'all really think a Big Bang fine-tuned every single thing in the world to be perfect for humans to exist?
No, their system doesn't make any sense. Oh, did you have a question? I just like I'll get a phone call or something. Yo, did you have a question?
But it's like I'm not trying to like I don't want to be disrespectful or nothing. Like I like to hear everybody's thoughts and like respect everybody's opinions. But like besides that, that's really all I had. And then for you, what would be your answer? Like what would you say the answer is?
Well, I don't really like the fine tuning or like the what happened before the Big Bang type arguments. I think we have to do like a presuppositional argument. I think that's the way to argue for God, because I think we disagree about how we view the world, right? And then so I argue that only the way Christians view the world can make like truth and like make sense of truth and like morality and like all these other things that we experience. So that's kind of how I argue for it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Once again, God bless. Y'all have a great day. Wish the best for everybody. And yeah, that's about it.
All right on, man. Because the problem is, let's say if like someone didn't believe in anything supernatural, right? But I convinced them with evidence that like Jesus resurrected from the dead, because there's like some historical evidence that Jesus resurrected from the dead. But they don't believe in anything supernatural. So they're just going to like, they'll go, okay, well, Jesus resurrected from the dead, but there must be a natural cause, right? So they're still not going to believe in God, or they can still come up with some excuse not to believe in God. They can come up with some natural cause. So you have to view the world in a way in which like something supernatural like that would be possible in the first place before you could even accept the evidence that Christianity is true. So we have to like address how people view the world and how they interpret reality or think about evidence in the first place at a foundational level before we talk to them about evidence. Not that evidence is bad or anything. It's just it needs to have a context, because evidence without context it can have different meanings. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, man?
Just, dealing with these emotional non-believers. Don't like logic.
I just wanted to say you're not doing a very good job at defending our religion, man. Like, because like any skeptic could literally just say, "Oh, you need to make the same presuppositions as me to even come to the conclusion of God in the first place." Like you first have to presuppose your senses are correct to get to God, and then you're saying, "Oh, well, God is making my senses correct." You still have to make that presupposition in the first place.
It doesn't matter, because I'm not an empiricist. That's only a problem for empiricists. You don't understand.
No, it's a circular argument. That's the problem with it.
You don't understand the argument.
Well, can you please explain how it's not circular? Because it kind of sounds circular.
The problem with trusting our sense data is a problem for someone who's an empiricist. An empiricist is a person that wants to say that, like, I only trust science, or I only trust which we can experience and observe, and that's the only things I believe in, right? So issues with trusting sense data is an issue for them. I'm not an empiricist, so I don't have an issue about like trusting my sense data. That's not an issue with my position.
No. You're not getting the problem. The problem is that
you're not getting what I'm saying to you.
No, I am. The problem is an atheist can just say your presuppositional argument doesn't matter to me, because you have to make the same presupposition that an atheist needs to make to have their senses be valid. Because if our senses are valid, then God doesn't need to exist.
You're not understanding. I'm not an empiricist. The problems that apply to empiricism do not apply to me, because I am not an empiricist. Do you not understand that?
Well, I mean, you're not understanding that you kind of need to make that presupposition to have you have to make that presupposition.
I want to beat my head into the wall right now. That's how you're making me feel.
I'm glad.
I'm not an empiricist, right? You understand that?
Okay, but do you understand that I'm making an argument that you need to have some form of empiricism to get to God in the first place? Are you not getting that, or
I'm not
are you?
an empiricist, so it doesn't matter. It's not empirical problems are problems for empiricists. I'm not an empiricist. It's a problem for atheists.
Bro,
Atheists are the
you're ignoring
sir,
you're ignoring the basis of your argument.
Sir, atheists are the empiricists. I'm not an empiricist. So issues that are problems with them are not problems for me.
So are you arguing that just because you don't believe something means that it's not true?
What are you not understanding? Do you understand that like different positions have different problems? Like my position has problems that like the empiricist position doesn't have, right? Or whatever, like, and vice versa. We don't have the same issues and
No,
dilemmas.
I'm arguing that you have an issue whether or not you think you have an issue. That is my argument. I'm arguing you have an issue whether or not you believe you have an issue or not.
You are so low information, you don't even know what you're talking about because you're presenting a empiricist critique to my position, but I'm not an empiricist. So it's not the proper, you're not applying the critique properly, and you're too low information to understand that.
No, but I'm arguing I'm arguing presuppositions here. You're the one who always says let's evaluate our presuppositions.
I wish you well. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Where do they grow these people?
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Do you believe in God?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Do you?
Me personally, not really.
Why not?
I just feel like I don't know. Maybe there might not be one for me, you know?
Well, I think we can objectively prove there's a God.
So, may you state your argument first, and then I'll be able to state my argument, and then we can have a rebuttal?
Okay. Well, I take the position that, like, God is necessary to even have an argument in the first place. So I'll say, like, let's take it for a fact it's the case that we can make arguments. Well, what would be necessary for us to make arguments?
I don't know.
Well, we can work our way back from that question to show that, like, the Christian claims in the Bible are going to be a necessary foundation to make any argument in the first place. So you wouldn't be able to deny the claims of the Bible because any argument would have to assume the claims of the Bible are true in order to make an argument.
Okay. I'm gonna give my stance then. I think that we're just kind of here and it's just kind of purely random, you know?
Yeah, but if you take that position, then we wouldn't be able to know anything. We wouldn't, like, science wouldn't make sense. And we wouldn't
I mean, it kind of does with, like, not knowing and knowing that we kind of don't really have much of a purpose other than that we just kind of exist here just to exist.
But that's, like, sad. Why like, in Christianity, there's meaning and purpose to your life where we're designed to, like, love God and love others. And that the people you love, there's an afterlife and you can see those people.
I'd say that people give their own lives purposes, you know? People give their own lives purpose.
But that's not real. That's not a reality.
I mean, I give my life purpose. I play my games. I talk to my family and stuff, you know. I think that's pretty much purposeful.
Okay, but I mean, I think we should live in a real world with real purpose and not like in like a make-believe imagined world. I don't think that can be very fulfilling.
Wait, how is what my world idea make-believe?
Because the purpose is like in your mind. It's not in the actual external world. So it's not actual. It's like a concept, and concepts aren't necessarily real.
So then,
Like if I
how
just
would...
imagine something, it's not real, right?
Well, I wouldn't say it's imagining. I'd say it's more of just kind of living life.
But ultimately, it is. You're just imagining because there's no meaning in the world that was put there by like God.
I mean,
The meaning was just put there by you. You just put it in the world.
I mean, that's kind of how I see it. You know, we give our own meaning to ourselves. Like, I give my meaning by doing my job that my parents tasked me to do and obliging by it, and working at, well, used to work at Dollar General and do my job there, making sure the customers are happy, and that kind of gave my life purpose. And I don't see that as fake. I kind of see that as, you know, as real as it is, because I'm doing what is real.
It's like a it's a form of self-deception though. Like in the way I view it, right? Meaning and purpose is actual, it's real, it exists in this external reality. And it's not just up to me. I can't just at a whim decide it means something else. You could just like at any time switch the meaning and purpose to be whatever.
Well, yeah, that's kind of how life works. Some people don't like their life having meaning at all, and they just kind of sit and rot in their rooms.
If you grow older, though, I don't think you'll be very fulfilled. I think that'll leave you feeling empty inside because deep down, you know it's not real. Whereas, like, I feel like so fulfilled as a Christian, and I have hope.
So, what brings you hope then?
We see a world, there's death and suffering, right? And if there's no God, well, that would just be natural. It just evolved that way. That would just be normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And in the Christian view of things, the death and suffering in the world is unnatural. It's a result of our rebellion, and that also God loves us even though we reject him, and he has a plan of redemption. And he demonstrated his love through sacrificing his son for our sins. And now we have a pathway where we can have a redemption. We have a relationship with God, and then we can have eternal life. So when you pass away, it's not over. There's more to life than just this experience. So there's a meaning to this experience because it will carry on to an afterlife.
Yeah. But I also see it that since it is natural, doesn't mean it's good. I mean, animals eating each other, that's natural, but
Nobody
it's
made
suffering.
that. Yeah, I agree with that. No, I never said that because it's natural, it's good. But
No, I'm saying that
it's never. The point was, it's never going to change. Like we're never going to be able. Humans are never going to be able to fix the world, so there's no death and suffering. Only God can fix those things.
But I don't think he will be anytime soon. I think the world's gonna kind of stay the same for a bit, you know?
Well, we don't know when he's going to do it, but we know Jesus is coming back and he's going to judge the living and the dead. And when that happens, you're going to want to be on the right side. You're going to want to have a relationship with him. You're not going to want to be separated from God. It's going to be a bad time.
I mean, my mom's not separated from God. She believes in him.
Yeah, well, I think, sometimes our parents know better than us. A lot of times when you're young, you learn a lot in school. Your head gets full of knowledge and you get kind of arrogant pride from that. But I suggest, I don't know, you should have a humble attitude, and it, the older people in your life you can learn a lot from them. From experience is a lot different than book knowledge.
Well, I just kind of developed my own thesis on if there was a God or not, and sometimes I don't really like the moral compass of old people because some of them are kind of skewed from the old times, There's some people who kind of blame races, and that's kind of bad, and I just kind of don't really listen to them. I listen to myself mostly, but also I listen to my parents because they're my parents. But I'd say, I developed my own thesis on if there is a God or not, and yeah.
All right. Well, you basically either accept Christianity or you won't be reduced to like an absurdity, and you would just be contradicting yourself all the time. So I guess up to you.
Well, I don't really think I'm contradicting myself. I think that we're just kind of here because of cells randomly forming from hydrothermal vents and then constantly evolving into the whole predator-prey relationship that we have now, and then we just kind of outsmarted the whole system that we kind of were built inside of, and now we're able to manufacture off of everything. Now we're humans who have products like the Nintendo Switch, which is really cool.
It could be the case though that like because we think incorrectly, or like because our senses were inaccurate, we were able to survive better. And so there's no reason, like evolution doesn't give us a reason to trust our senses or to trust our thinking. So it ends up being like an irrational position. Like you'd have you wouldn't be able to make sense of the fact that you're a reasoning subject, with agency and all this.
Wait, you're saying that we should trust our senses, right?
Yeah, but we should have a reason for why we trust them. You're just like taking them on blind faith.
I wouldn't say blind faith. I'd say more of I say how I see the world, and I think how I see the world is correct for me, and how you see the world with God, that's correct for you, but it's just not correct for me,
Yeah, but both. Okay. Well, I just don't think you're being very rational, but all right. I mean, you don't have to be. So.
I mean, rationalism just kind of depends on each person, I mean, the one guy you were debating before, he had his own beliefs on God, and
Yeah, sure. Everyone can have their own beliefs, but like, I think only one person can be correct. Like, we both can't be correct if we contradict ourselves,
But do you think we're both correct for ourselves and not for each other?
No, I think the fact that we're arguing that you would debate at all means there's like an objective truth between us that we share. If we don't share a truth between us, there's no point to debate. So when you're arguing me, you're contradicting yourself by arguing with me.
I say it's more of like I'm trying to like understand more than argue, because I say knowledge is powerful.
Do you?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff we can learn. Like, I'm in a food science class right now, and we're learning how to preserve foods and stuff, make them last longer. I say that's pretty good knowledge.
Speaking of food, I'm really hungry. I think I'm gonna go eat.
Okay.
So I'm gonna end my life. Thanks for coming, man. I wish you well.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. I used to say God bless you to non-believers, but I stopped doing that because I think that's kind of like passive aggressive, and I don't like being like passive aggressive. I don't want to be passive aggressive. I want to be full on aggressive. Like, we're not going halfway with our aggression, right? We're going full on aggression. But on TikTok, the rules kind of force you to be passive aggressive, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm running. He wants to eat food. He's running away. Anyways, thanks everyone for coming and listening and arguing with me and hating me and loving me or whatever. Not that anyone loves me or anything. Anyways,